Hello, you wonderful people of the internet. I am Justin. I'm also known as the Cine Maverick, and today I'm going to be looking at the next film in my P.T.A. Ander-Thon, in which I look at the films of Paul Thomas Anderson, who of course has his movie out right now, which I still have not seen yet. I will probably see it in the next few days, and that film is Inherent Vice. So this was kind of done in anticipation of that film. And today I'm going to be talking about the film right before Inherent Vice. I've already made it that far, and that is 2012's The Master. The Master, of course, is a film starring Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman. It is sort of loosely based on Scientology. It's this religion after the war that's referred to as the Cause. Certainly bears some similarities to that. I'm sure it diverges as well. And really, it's kind of a story about this character played by Joaquin Phoenix. His name is Freddie Quell. He's a Navy soldier, or sailor rather. He comes back from the war and tries to adjust, eventually finding somewhat of a place with Philip Seymour Hoffman and his cult, really. And the name of this character is Lancaster Dodd. That he's the leader of the Cause, and it's kind of about. It really is about their relationship. It really is about the relation between Freddie Quell, Joaquin Phoenix, and Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lancaster Dodd. And this is the kind of film that I think really expands upon what Anderson did in There'll Be Blood, in terms of really giving us these moments for character, these moments of just character behavior as a means of showing us who these people are, really. And I think because of that, and because of some other reasons, it didn't really get a huge following. I know critics were pretty impressed with it. I know I was pretty impressed with it. If you've read this is actually the one film on this list of films that I've gone through in Anderson's filmography that I was a big fan of when it came out, even though my initial reaction upon leaving the theater was different from the one I eventually settled on for my review, because I really did feel like it appreciated as I thought about it more and more. And what I find with these movies is I feel myself becoming more emotionally invested as almost like as I sort of pick through the movie in my mind, as I try to wrestle with it a little bit. And even if I don't think about it for a few days, it'll kind of come back to me, and I'll find myself thinking about it again. And really, I think what I love about this movie is actually somewhat similar to what I love about There'll Be Blood, in that it really is about a relationship, a core relationship at the center of it, between Lancaster Dodd and Freddie Quell, just like we had that great relationship of father and son in There'll Be Blood with H.W. and Daniel. And of course, fathers and sons, we've seen that before with Anderson. That seems to be a pretty guiding motif in his work, and we see that again here. And it's a very complicated relationship, and I think it's also a credit to the way this film is written. Some of the processing scenes, that's this process in which you have almost like a psychotherapy kind of thing. You have the Dodd character talking to a subject, asking them questions as a way of kind of wrestling with their past traumas, and as a way of trying to get better, to move into the light, so to speak. And so the writing there, I think, is really great in terms of what questions he has the Dodd character repeat, how he plans to attack the past of the Freddie Quell character, and I think also what we learn through that technique. Even though it's not, maybe the technique doesn't have the benefit that the Dodd character wants it to have, it does help us, I think, wrestle with the past of the Freddie Quell character, and we learn so much about him, I think, just through his responses, just through Joaquin Phoenix's facial expressions, in terms of his reactions to things. He's a very And I love it. I love how easily rattled he is again. Like by like one little question can set him off. And I think what that does show, because what you have with the Freddie Quell character is you have this character who's lost really. He seems to be someone who's prone to violence, someone who almost needs it compulsively. We see that a lot of the early scenes in the film, which are kind of like these little tone poems of him, draining ethanol from a torpedo so he can make this weird alcoholic cocktail that he gets drunk on most of the time. You see him wrestling with a bunch of the other sailors as a bunch of the sailors stand around and cheer, and you see him going at it with a sand sculpture of a woman to the amusement of the other sailors. So you really do see this kind of primal characteristic to the Freddy character, and what I think, I love how you have that, but we understand, we get a little bit about where he's coming from emotionally, and it's done piecemeal. It's not done all at once. We don't have some great grand moment that explains everything about this character, and a lot of this is, I think, sounding very similar to what I said about There'll Be Blood, and I think that's so different to us. And I know it's definitely frustrating, I think, even for someone like me who is a fan of his work, but I think it is ultimately rewarding, and it really does make you really want to revisit these movies and dive in and see how it all fits together, and realize you're not going to understand everything, but you don't have to. If it's fascinating, does it really matter if you understand everything? I mean, maybe it's not about making it concrete. Maybe it's about having some kind of abstract understanding of what's going on. An emotional component. I really do want to emphasize that here, because I think this film got labeled as very dead because it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on the surface, which of course I feel like with most great movies, if they are about what's on the surface, then maybe they're not as great as we've made them out to be. I know for myself, the movies I respond to are the ones where there's so much more going on under the surface. Now, to be fair, I think a film like Boogie Nights compared to this one is a little more accessible, because what is on the surface is so fun and vibrant and full of life, and here it's a much more subdued kind of thing. It's still full of life, I think, but it's sort of brimming under the surface. And I really want to praise Joaquin Phoenix here. This is one of my favorite roles, if not my favorite role from him. It's a very go for broke performance, to be sure, which I would also say of Daniel Day-Lewis in There'll Be Blood. But it's risky, and I think it's epic in a way that this film kind of demands. It demands this kind of bigger than life performance, and I love how we see everything. We see a lot of this movie through him, so that certain characters are sort of in and out of his life, and the film reflects that. I think the film's editing reflects that, of what's in the film and what's out of the film. And I also want to really praise Philip Seymour Hoffman, who, again, one of his better performances. He was up for a nomination like Phoenix was the year it came out, and I think he was, frankly, I think he deserved to win for this. Just really, like, just the way he shows it. I think there's something about his frailty, and how he's constantly putting on this grand performance, not only for the people in his religion, but for himself as well, as if he wants to make himself commit to this performance. And when you have characters telling he's making up as he goes along, and that really starts to rattle him, you start to see that component. You start to see that. Start to see him question himself, not overtly, but in little mannerisms, like there's a moment where he's being questioned by a skeptic at a party he's at, and just the way, and I think it's also the way Anderson films him, just the way of, like, kind of looking over his shoulder and trying to project this confidence, but realizing that that this skeptic is getting to him and is making himself question what he's been preaching. So, this is not going to be a movie for everybody. I think I said that in my review, and frankly, I don't care. I mean, I think it's rewarding. Again, if you go into it with an open mind, if you realize that not everything that's happening is going to make sense coherently. I just think it's really, in an interview, I remember an interview with Mark Kermode, Anderson described this film as being short on plot but big on character, and I'd agree with that. I think that was his primary focus with this film, and I think there's a structure to it for sure. It's just not tied into plot in the conventional sense. So that is sort of my take, I guess, on The Master. I will probably put a link down below for my original review, which I talked about it in some length. And yeah, that'll be it for that movie. And I'm gonna the next film I do will be a short film that was a collection of alternate takes called Back Beyond. Alternate takes from The Master, I should say. And so that should be a lot of fun. And then I will actually be doing a video log of Inherent Vice. Can't wait for that. So thank you for listening, and I will see you soon.